everybody. So we're going to do a dialogue today on how social media affects your mental health. And to reiterate again, a dialogue is distinct from a conversation in that we are really going to listen to each other, hear each other's point of view, and then a great outcome would be that after thinking about each other's point of view, that both of us walk away having learned something, changed in some small way, which of course can be latent. It can happen weeks or months later, but the idea is that there's quite a lot of listening and thinking that goes on, and just seeing what another person's perspective can do in terms of influencing you. So Aranza is somebody that I have just met briefly for a few minutes for like a screener call to make sure that we're both real humans. But pretty much I have never spoken to her before. And that's what makes this, I think, an interesting opportunity to have a dialogue. So welcome, Aranza. Nice to have you.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk today again about how social media affects your mental health. And I think we'll probably be coming at it from different perspectives. I'm in my late 30s, so I was there at the beginning of Facebook and kind of got to see how social media first developed. And I imagine that, well, I think that perhaps you use different forms of social media than I do. I don't know, we'll find out. But I think it would be interesting to talk in general first about how you use social media. What's the purpose of it in your life?
Well, like you said, I think we're both very different. Got my first phone when I was, I believe, 9 years old. So I think that's a little different from your point, like your perspective. And I also got my first iPhone or smartphone in high school. But I've had social media since I was in 5th grade.
Mm-hmm. And do you use social media? Well, did you use it differently back then than you do today? I mean, when you think of social media, I guess I picture Instagram, and you're just scrolling through a feed. It becomes kind of mindless. You sort of you click like or whatever in order to show people that you are a fan of what they're doing. Like you're giving them a little bit of attention and something positive, and you're wanting attention back for
Yeah.
stuff. Is that the way you're using it now and have used it?
I mean, interestingly enough, I believe I'm using social media in the same way, because whenever I first got a Facebook in 5th grade, we cared about the likes. We cared about the post updates and the status updates, and oh, well, my profile picture got 100 likes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in 5th grade, which is crazy to think that a child that is so young is so worried about being accepted on social media. And now, if I post a picture on Instagram, I still care about the likes, and I still want to make my feed look cute, or I want more followers, which is just, I mean, in a sense, if you're looking at it in a very superficial aspect, go ahead, do whatever you want. But deep down, I don't think it's necessarily affecting like me positively as it should be.
I think I can understand and relate to the things you're saying, that it feels good to have more likes and followers and stuff. But how does it affect you? You said it's not positive. What is the effect?
Whenever you look at your likes compared to somebody else's, I feel like we automatically kind of put ourselves into a category or a status.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, well, these are the Instagram like models. These are the girls that are popular in the area. And then there's me. And then there's people that don't really use it, so they don't get a bunch of likes. But if you're comparing yourself to somebody just based off of their posts about how well they're edited or how many likes, then you tend to feel very self-conscious and feel like you're not worthy enough because you don't have that much engagement as other people. Granted, I understand that it is all fake, and I can vouch that if I look through my social media, I know it's all fake coming from myself. So I'm not even sure why I tend to compare myself to others, and knowing myself that none of it is real.
when you say it's all fake, that's a pretty strong statement you're making. Can you expand on that a little bit more? Like, you feel like there's no authenticity occurring. It is just showing the best possible impression you can to get the most attention or something?
Yeah, I don't think anyone would post a picture of themselves having a bad day, or on a day that they don't feel pretty,
Hmm.
or on a day that they're upset. And I also don't think, even if you're having an okay day and everything's fine and everything's going well, like,
Hmm.
you still don't tend to capture those moments. You capture the highlights and the moments that you got ready, the moments that you did your makeup, the moments that you went out. So if you see all these posts of somebody that is just a bunch of highlights
Right.
and it's just not true.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've noticed that you've put all the examples you've given when you talk about like going out and makeup and stuff. You've been referring to other women. Do you also compare likes or whatever? Do you feel, I guess maybe it's competitive or something like that, looking at accounts of guys, or are guys different from the descriptions that you've given so far somehow?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've talked to my guy friends about their Instagrams. They don't seem to care as much as what they post or their persona on social media
Hmm.
as girls do. However, I do notice that guys with more followers, more likes, usually have more like confidence in themselves, rather than, or not necessarily confidence, more like presence. But somebody, for example, my boyfriend, who doesn't really isn't really that active on social media, he doesn't care, yet he's still very confident in himself because he's not looking for that validation that I guess I do, or I seek.
Hmm. I'm just taking in what you're saying because I relate a lot to what you're saying. I think I'm more similar to you in that I do care about the likes. I'd love to say that I don't, but I feel like I sort of just accept because I have a private account on Instagram, and so I don't really get that many new followers. I'm also like not in college or something, some place where like I literally don't even understand where people are getting so many followers. It's that everyone you meet is like, "Oh, what's your Instagram?" Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Okay, that doesn't happen to me very much. So
Honestly, people will do anything for followers these days.
really?
My friend, she makes a fake Tinder profile, if that makes sense. Like, it's all her pictures, but
Right.
she's not looking for a relationship. And
Mhm.
she just puts her Instagram in the bio. That way, all the guys that are scrolling through follow her on Instagram, but she's not really doing any of the, like, she's not talking to them. She's not swiping left or right. She just has, like, she's promoting herself, if that makes sense.
Yes. Oh, yes, it does. So, what about the quality? I don't know how to phrase it. The quality or the authenticity part of that, where there are guys that, for no reason other than finding her attractive, I'm sure, since she's on Tinder, and that is what the whole thing is based on, are following her on Instagram. So you have a bunch of guys that are essentially being voyeuristic and just like looking at pictures of her. Does she I guess she's totally okay with that. She wants that. It may be naive of me, but is that fulfilling?
Yes, I understand. I think that at the end of the day, it sounds really like demeaning. However, I think in her perspective, if you're not really paying attention to them and they're just another number,
Hmm.
then it doesn't really matter, especially if your account is already public.
Hmm.
But if that wasn't your goal and you were getting a bunch of requests from random men and like they were in your direct messages trying to talk to you, then yeah, I guess that would be more. If you don't want it, then probably wouldn't like it.
Right.
But if you just care about the likes or the followers, then it's just like, it helps your engagement.
Hmm. I see. It helps your engagement,
Yeah.
your analytics or whatever on Instagram, but I think I'm guessing the way it comes out on, someone like that's consciousness is, let's say, I don't know what a lot of likes would be for her, but let's say it's like 300 would be like a huge amount. So if she crosses that threshold, even if it's mostly guys that are just interested in her because they find her attractive or whatever it is, or people that are just total strangers that she wouldn't want to engage with in any way. Something about crossing that threshold is like a dopamine hit or something like that, where it's just like this chemical reaction that's just like, I feel liked, I feel popular. Other people will see that
Hmm.
and they'll like me more. Like, I don't know what it is for her, but some sort of, I don't know if it's an insecurity, because not always an insecurity if you like attention, but could be an insecurity being filled, or it could be just a feeling of satisfaction upon being liked, whatever that means to her. Um,
Yeah, I agree. I don't necessarily believe that she feels like she's nothing without the likes because we all have that understanding of like it's just social media. However, it is very gratifying to see the numbers get bigger,
hmm,
especially if every single post you're getting more likes and more likes and more likes. Then it's just kind of like, well, I am doing something. I am doing something well. Like every post keeps getting better feedback.
mhm,
And I feel like once that you see that growth, then you want more,
mhm,
and it's hard to stop.
hmm. This is, I guess, where it's leading my mind is in the direction of like being liked for more superficial reasons, which is, can be wonderful. Like, I feel like I relate to that when I'm younger. It's like if someone thinks that I'm good at something, if I'm strong, if they find me attractive, any of these things, I'm like, when I'm younger, I love that. And I like things like that today too. But I guess I try to invest my energy in things that feel like, if people like things that are more true to who I am, like if they like my ideas, or if they like me even when I'm messy or vulnerable, um, then it makes me feel better in a longer term, healthier way, which took me a long time to learn that.
Mhm.
It's not like I knew that when I was in like my early 20s or something, but um, I guess I just wonder if there's a lot of thoughtfulness about why people are liking, and, because if you keep um, taking that positive feedback, which is for a very specific thing, even if which is like people find you attractive, or let's say, um, and you just keep letting that be your gratification over and over and over. Somewhere deep down in your subconscious, I think that the things that are really authentic to who you are not being appreciated, and maybe you get it elsewhere in your life and this wouldn't apply. But I have to think that after a while that actually lowers your feelings of self-worth or something like that, because you're not getting feedback in the direction that would be most healthy.
I agree. However, I also think, for example, for myself, I like photography and I find it harder for me to share a picture that is not of myself because I know it won't get like the attention that I would like it to,
Hmm.
as much as a selfie.
Hmm.
So even though like I know being creative and taking a creative picture that I like and I am happy with is more true to myself, I still find myself being those types of pictures like the hardest ones to post
Hmm.
because you don't want to feel like whatever you really enjoy doing is mediocre. And like whenever you have something that does work every single time, it's just easier. It's the easier option and the easier route.
Hmm. How much of this ties into a feeling of like success ultimately, as opposed to, like, I think we've established you're not getting some authentic recognition occurring, like that you're not getting something, like you have to get that from somewhere else. Social media has nothing to do with that. Is it just a matter of like you're working the system and you're successful? Would it feel similar if you were to like um be good at some whether it's a career thing or like get a gig of some sort and just like make a lot of money and just see the money in your bank account? Is it like a success number counting thing or?
I mean, I wish I could say, I wish I could relate to that, but I've never really had any success career-wise. I'm still
Mhm,
in school, and
mhm,
most of my accomplishments I don't really share.
hmm,
I'm kind of like a private person as in what I'm actually doing,
mhm,
and I'd rather just show, like, the superficial stuff, but in a sense of, getting that, gratification, like, coming from something that I did, for example, getting accepted into college,
mhm.
it's something that is I am proud of, and I am, like, happy for myself. However, it's not something that really motivates me to, I guess, to apply to other colleges and, like, get accepted and get that again. It's just doesn't really make doesn't I don't really have that much, and I guess my part-time jobs don't really, like, they're not really a source of gratification either, since it's just a part-time job and anyone could work
Hmm,
wherever.
mhm. Yeah.
So maybe
Well,
in the future, I could understand that, but as of right now, I'm like, my only way to express myself is through Instagram or whatever social media.
you say that's your only way of to express yourself, but I was asking in the context of to feel success or gratification. Is that more what you mean? Like, I imagine
Yes,
you
that
express yourself in other ways. Yeah.
yeah. Like my only way of getting that gratification, I guess,
Right. Hmm.
or feeling of success, especially since school is so difficult, especially right now that it's online.
Hmm.
It's kind of like getting knocked down like every single day, and you have to like, it's hard. It really is, especially online with like having so many classes and so much to keep up with. I feel like every single day it feels like it's just not worth it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And every single day my graduation date keeps like I just feel like it's so in far from me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And since I don't have friends at home, I don't really see anyone, then that just kind of adds to that like whole aspect of it.
Ah, so yeah, the impact of social media compounds at a time when you are forced to be online. You don't, you're not at school, so you don't have your friends that are there. Is that part of what you're saying? So it's like you
Yeah.
have to rely more on social media, and probably the less healthy parts are emphasized.
Yeah, in order to feel relevant,
Hmm.
like to still feel present, even though you're not.
I appreciate you sharing that, and for me to get that perspective, because I haven't gotten that before, but I have imagined how difficult it would be to be in college right now. But
Yeah.
this is a little off topic, but I'm curious what real life interactions look like in a time when our minds, or your mind, is so kind of over exposed to social media and overall just online media. Um, has it changed real life for you in some way? Is real life more intense? Is it more scary? I mean,
In my opinion, I think it's more difficult to make friends, or yes, it's more difficult to meet people that you haven't ever seen before.
yeah.
It's complete strangers, because I have the confidence to go up to somebody that I've seen on Instagram or Twitter, or that we follow each other even though we've never met before.
Hmm.
However, if I have never seen you or heard of you, it's going to take a lot of me, especially somebody that is more of an introvert than an extrovert. I do not put myself out there, and unless we've had a previous connection, I probably won't talk to you. And even if we were introduced by friends, I think it's harder to maintain and make that connection if you've never like engaged in any other way than just in person. That's why whenever I do meet somebody new, like if it's through mutual friends or through school, the first thing we kind of do without even noticing is following each other.
Hmm.
And you kind of like, it's a weird background check that you get to do nowadays than like it wasn't previously available. You can see where they went to school, where they graduated. Granted, it's information that you don't necessarily need, but it does help, or at least it makes me feel like we're closer.
So it makes you feel like you're closer to that person. I would not have expected those words to come out of your mouth. I would have expected you to say it's automatic and it makes me feel like I can categorize that person a little bit. Oh, they went to this school. That means they're kind of like this. And like, this is where they're from. Maybe they're a little like whatever that the stereotype.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean that too, it could bring me closer to that person, or it could do the opposite.
Hmm.
Like if I like them in person, but I see their social media and I see that they went to some, I'm not sure, school with bad reputation where they did bad things, I'm probably gonna put that into my head and take that into account, that
Mhm.
this person may not be somebody I want to hang out with.
Yeah. Well, I think many people do that. I was doing that back when Facebook was still a novel thing in the early 2000s. I mean, like pretty much everybody would like Facebook stalk each other, so it's pretty similar. Um,
Hmm.
because it gives you so much information, and then the photos, of course, you're just like, oh, do they look like they're popular, or like what types of things do they do? Do they have a lot of friends? How attractive are their friends? I mean, these are the things that whether I was conscious of it or not, I would be looking at and noticing. I'm just thinking about this like online culture and just so struck by the notion that people follow each other like right away, because that does not happen in my life.
Sometimes I it's so unhealthy because sometimes I go to the gym
Hmm.
and I leave and I check my phone and I see people that I saw at the gym follow me.
And they haven't interacted with you at the gym.
They've never said a word to me. I have no clue who they are. And I don't have an easy name to just look up. And we have no mutual followers or nothing. And you're just like, this is scary, but at the same time, if I let other randoms follow me, then why is it like different now? Or why do I feel like this? But then also like I feel like it's kind of invading your privacy, even though your account is public in a way.
Hmm. How could they do? I'm just trying to understand how they could possibly follow you unless they knew it. I mean, I would think at least your first name.
I'm not sure. From what I've heard, I know that whenever you scan your card at the gym, it
Hmm.
shows your name. So maybe a worker told them, maybe they know somebody at the gym that knew me.
Hmm.
Maybe they follow somebody that follows me and then they saw me. Or maybe I posted something at the gym and it shows the location.
Hmm. Oh, okay, right. Oh, that would totally do it if you did that, because right, you could probably
Hmm.
look up posts by like geotagging or something.
Yes. Hmm.
Huh. I'm so struck by this world, this parallel online world that, I have that in my life, but I have made it such that like the interactions I really care about are my in-person interactions, which are much harder right now, of course, to have. It's like it takes, just like you were saying, like so much more effort to have them.
Hmm.
And unlike you, who I believe you said you're an introvert, I'm an extrovert and I love people. And it makes it extra hard now because it's like, oh my God, I need not just friends, but also community, just like people I pass by. I've got a little 2-year-old son, and I before all this, walked around the neighborhood with him all the time. And it's like, I was just like a member of the community. People would know me and say hello. And that was an integral part of my life that is now gone. And I can't say I've replaced it with social media. I just have less of it. And I've had to like go in myself a little bit more. And frankly, it's just painful. But I'm struck that because you're a different age, like it's more natural for that to happen. I suppose if people were like constantly following me and there was a lot, and I was just sort of part of that, part of the culture, a little bit more, I would do it. I wouldn't avoid it. But I wonder what it does to your real life interactions. Does it put more weight on them? Is it harder during a time like this where there's so much more online? Is it more enjoyable to have real life interactions? Like, do you have any feedback on that?
I believe that before coronavirus,
Mm-hmm.
I think life was go, go, go.
Mm-hmm.
Like you do this on this day, you hang out with these people on this day. Every day is busy. You have
Mm-hmm.
class, you go to school, you have work, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just like, although people are starting to get over the whole fear,
Mm-hmm.
starting to hang out and go out to places, it's not, I feel like it still doesn't feel the same. I don't get that gratification of hanging out with my friends because I feel like it's wrong.
Mm.
I feel like I shouldn't be hanging out, especially if I'm with a friend that posts on their social media a lot and it's Instagram stories, everything. I feel very guilty because I feel like all of her followers are seeing me that I'm out and that I'm hanging out with her
Mm-hmm.
and we just look ignorant. So I
Mm.
kind of stare away from hanging out with people, even though I do get invited. And if I wanted to, I could still go do whatever, to whatever they wanted to do. But I just don't want, and I think that still comes back to like everybody or how you care about everybody's opinion of you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like this is different and it is people's life and people's health that are in danger. And there's times that I am willing to risk people thinking that I'm ignorant for whatever reason, but this time around is just not something that I feel that comfortable with. And it it just makes me even more of an introvert
Hmm.
than I usually would be. Because I would kind of categorize myself as more of an ambivert. Like sometimes I like people, sometimes I don't.
The fact that social media kind of like rats on you and like surveils you in a certain way where it suddenly becomes public what you're doing is just fascinating. Like it's not obvious that that should be the way that it is. Like you've probably grown up in a way where like that's normal. But to me,
Hmm.
that's, well, I know that it's sort of normal nowadays, although I can go out and not feel like it's going to be on social media or whatever. I mean, I could probably just say, can you please not post a picture of me if I want to like go out with a friend or something like that. And somehow it could be taken out of context as being reckless or something. But yeah, I mean, I think that social media giving lots of people a narrow view into your life um, is shaping opinion a lot because a lot of the reason we think things are good or bad or ignorant or smart or whatever it is just because lots of people believe them. There's a collective feeling that this is the way it should be. It strikes me all the time that if everybody thought something totally wacky, like, you know, what we're in right now would be considered totally wacky a year ago. But if everybody started believing something like totally different from now, then we would sort of have to believe it or to get along with people we would. Um,
Hmm.
and I think social media just helps to very quickly disseminate information. So
Yes.
it causes like bubbles of collective feeling to like hit you constantly or
Hmm.
something like, you know, something like that. So it sounds like a anxiety producing
Yeah.
situation.
It's it's 24/7. It doesn't stop. Anyone can log in at any time. Anybody can be logged on for literally the whole day, the whole night, and know what other people are doing or post what they're doing.
Can I ask what you do for your mental health? If you feel that you have something good that you do or some things that are good?
Um, yeah, well, I used to go to the gym, but that kind of isn't safe. So I also used to work out at home, but since school started, it's been just so much work that I kind of stopped all of that. So right now I have therapy around once a month, which is pretty helpful. And I feel like it's a good balance of like fitting in a session and also finishing my work.
Mhm.
And then I, even though I probably shouldn't use social media as a mental health, I think social media does give me a break whenever I need it from being so overwhelmed with school. Even though at the end it might hurt my grades
Mhm.
if I don't have control over the time in my screen time, it just ends up being me wasting time. So I don't necessarily think that's a good way to give myself a break. However, it is just what I do.
Hmm. Does social media have, I don't know, a substantive amount of positive impact on your life? I guess I'm not clear about that.
Well, whenever I'm not necessarily seeking validation, I
Mhm.
also think that it's fun to connect with friends and
Mhm.
talk to them and see what they're up to. And it's funny because I have two Instagram accounts, which is one that is my public one and one that is my private one.
Mhm.
And I kind of find myself spending more time on my private one whenever I do need that break of homework or I'm too stressed out. I go on my private account. And that is an account where only like 50 people follow it. I only follow 50 people.
Mhm.
It's like all of my close friends, and we just share whatever we want.
Hmm.
There is no judgment zone. You can post a picture of your foot and people will like say, great pic.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that is something that I feel like it's a very genuine interaction because it's people that you do hang out with. I mean, you tend to hang out with and that are in your close circle. And also, if you want to complain, no one's gonna tell you. Like people are gonna be more. I guess they'll care more, which is because they're your close friends. But if you had a bad day, and you want to post a picture of whatever happened with a caption, with a long caption, I'm sure that my close friends would read it. But if I posted it on my real Instagram, people would just scroll past and there's no interaction.
Hmm. Wow. These are two vastly different virtual worlds that you're describing. And it's funny because you didn't even mention this the whole conversation up until now. And you just used the phrase real Instagram to refer to your public one.
Yes.
So I find that interesting because it seems like the private one that's just for, I guess, friends and family actually confers a lot of positivity. I mean, from your description earlier, I would have thought that you couldn't post things that are more real or are less perfect looking or however you want to describe it. But it sounds like you can in just this alternate one that
hmm
you only thought about later on.
Yeah. I've had my second Instagram for like a couple of years now, and it is like a creative outlet for me. However, it's also kind of like you can't let yourself get too obsessed with it since it it will become the other Instagram, if that makes sense. Like they will end up being the same thing.
Hmm.
So it is more genuine if you kind of let it be and just share whatever you feel like sharing and not necessarily because you feel like you have to.
Hmm. I don't know if you ever thought about this, but do you feel like one day you will like delete your public Instagram, like when you're like 30 or something like that?
You after yes, I think about this all the time. However, it is very hard for me, not necessarily to delete it, but to kind of live without it because I think I am in a career path. My major is advertising,
Hmm.
where creativity is a big thing.
Hmm.
And they're not only looking at your LinkedIn page. Like whatever advertising agency that is looking at me
Hmm.
is not just looking at my portfolio, they're looking at my LinkedIn, they're looking at my Instagram, they're looking at everything. They want to see who I am and like what my creative, like what I can do with whatever I'm given.
Hmm.
So if I have no social media persona, that kind of like puts me behind somebody that has a better one.
Oh, interesting. This is very interesting because I own a marketing company. So I would basically hire somebody like you. And so I'm kind of listening to the other side of it. Um, and you're right that I do look at I don't hire anymore, but the team that does hire, the recruiting team, um, I think they, like me, will look at everybody, like all the social media available. And if there is something creative, that's great. I would not say we look at it as like this major thing, but if we can see a side of somebody that's like really interesting and shows off like a talent, like if you were taking really cool photographs or something, I think that would be a plus. But it's not like the primary thing I look at. But I don't own an advertising agency. That is a little bit more
Mhm.
like often consumer oriented, where you want to have like campaigns that are really photography oriented and stuff. I'm doing more like boring businessy type of campaigns. But
My advertising professor said, if you can't advertise yourself, if you can't promote yourself, then what makes me think that you can promote somebody else?
I'm going to take that in. Give me 1 second. It sounds right. It sounds obvious, but I want to think about it critically for a moment. Well, if your role is promoting, like if you were like a publicist, I would agree with that. There are different types of advertise. There are different roles within advertising. If you're like an analytics person and you're just looking at like the data behind the campaign and analyzing trends and stuff, then it wouldn't be necessary. But if you are a creative, then I suppose that does make sense.
Mhm. And I've tried to like the analytics side of advertising because
Hmm.
I know that's where the money is. That's where the
Hmm.
real like fancy jobs are. But I am more attracted to the advertising creative aspect.
I see. Okay, so it does hold true for you, and I could see that. Okay, your answer there in terms of the public Instagram mattering. So you put for some reason I had the impression that you mostly do like selfies and stuff like that. But are you putting like are there creative, interesting photographs there?
Mm, I wouldn't say creative,
Hmm.
but I also wouldn't say all I do is post selfies either. I think there's like I don't really post really that much. I just feel like there is a chance of me in the future for me to branch out and actually post things that would make my Instagram look nicer or make it like just like a little addition to whatever other things that I have to offer
Hmm.
on top of my portfolio, resume, LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Because, like you said, it's not necessarily, oh, we're hiring based off of your Instagram. But at
Right.
the same time, I would rather it look nice.
Yeah, I would find it intriguing if someone had like a ton of followers. I think I would, I think I would have two feelings about it. One is this person has some level of charisma or ability to promote, and that's good. And I think that's the part that your professor talks about. And the other is I would be a little concerned that they're not as focused on like more. serious work related things that, they really care about public persona and stuff like that. I would feel that
Mhm.
way. Again, I'm not making hiring decisions, but that's probably would be floating around my mind somewhere if somebody had like 30,000 followers or something like that. I
Yeah.
would be like, are they as interested in doing this? Or I don't know. It wouldn't feel like a good fit with like working in an office and producing results for clients somehow. Like I could be wrong, but
No, I think there is a disconnect, and there's a very fine line of what your Instagram can say about yourself,
mhm,
but I don't even believe it's about the followers. It's more about the content that
mhm,
I would be worried about in a job aspect, because I know that if a recruiter is looking at my Instagram, they're probably not going to care if I got 100 likes or not,
mhm,
but they're going to look at, the aesthetics and like if it's cohesive and
mhm.
maybe the captions or whatever, which is something that I would put more thought into if I was closer to graduating and I had a set agency that I wanted to work for and I wanted to make myself look really creative and like I was the perfect fit for the job.
Right. Okay. So social media, even what seems like a personal social media like Instagram, although I acknowledge for advertising it could mix because it's so visually oriented, it is a form of resume building on the one hand, and then on the other hand, it's like some sort of social validation thing to mindlessly do without realizing you're doing it to sort of take up space in your day and hope for some sort of
Mhm.
passive positive feeling to come from. So it's got a few roles.
Yes, which I don't think it had before. I think in the past, Instagram was very casual.
Hmm.
And now it's like a serious full-time job. Like you have to keep up and do this, do that, post this, post that. And in my opinion, it'd be nice if careers, like my career, didn't necessarily look at something like that. I wouldn't feel as like I had to have an Instagram. However, even if my major was accounting, I don't think that I would delete it. I just don't think it'd be kind of a stepping stool for my career.
You still feel like it might help your career, even if you were an accounting major?
No, I don't think no, no, no. I don't think it would help my major or my career,
Hmm.
but I don't think that'd be a big enough reason for me to delete it.
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking about it because I deleted. Well, I don't use Facebook anymore, and that's was the only one I used to use. I only use Instagram, and I used to have like a MySpace like back in the day. But do you even know what that is?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Um, so I did delete that, and Facebook is essentially deleted. I mean, I really don't use it. So I guess ultimately, like I do get attention and approval from Instagram in small amounts, and relying too much on it, I find, is not helpful. It just negatively impacts my mental health. But at the same time, I do realize that it's not like I'm putting out something that's like um, genuine enough to me or authentic enough to me that it's going to that it deserves like really good positive feedback. It's mostly just like, oh, here's what I did with my baby today, which mostly I just post pictures of my son, but my wife. But um, yeah, I can imagine feeling like it doesn't suit my needs. I wish I deleted my Instagram. I don't like
Yeah,
that I even have it, honestly. Like it's entertaining and I do like seeing what people are up to. I mention it in conversation, but I would almost call it a passive goal when I don't think about to get rid of it because it doesn't seem to serve my life in a very positive way ultimately.
and I'm not sure if you ever find yourself like whenever you do, because I delete my apps all the time,
Hmm.
but um, talking about something and I'm like, oh, let me pull it up. and oh, I can't, I deleted it. Like,
Hmm.
or for example, my neighborhood has a Facebook page, and
Hmm.
I'll delete Facebook because I don't, it's the one that I use the least. I'm trying to just um just not be on social media. So that's the first one I'll delete.
Hmm.
And then I see that something happened, or I see that there's a dog on the street, and I'm like, oh, well, it's on Facebook. The group is on Facebook. So I have to download the app again. Everything is so interconnected that it's so hard to disconnect, since there's so many genuine uses for, I guess, social media to be positive without having the whole time consuming aspect or seeking validation aspect or connecting aspect, just for everyday use.
That makes sense. Okay, so social media has many uses. This is what I'm beginning to get from this. There's career use, and there definitely is. I mean, I have a LinkedIn that it matters in my business. There's the sort of the personal use that really has the most impact on mental health, I would say. And then there's community use that you're saying, which is really I'd say mostly positive thing. Like you want to have social media for that, to not be left out, to be able to see some people. I've had people in my life like announce like that they're having like a party only on Facebook or something, you know, and nowhere else, which I always find bizarre, like at least email out or something. Um, but I guess it does have a valuable role in connecting people in a time when like that's the quickest way to let everybody in your life know of something. So it's all this is making me think that it's not social media itself, but how conscious you are about the way that you use it that ultimately determines its impact on your mental health.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
Are you ever conscious like, oh, I'm about to go on social media that might not help me, I'm going to put it down, or I'm going to use it differently than I expected?
Yes, I had to unfollow so many people because it was just unrealistic standards that I was looking at. And once I did, I felt completely fine
Hmm.
of seeing my friends instead of models on
Yeah.
my feed,
Hmm.
or rich people, whatever it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because I understand that that might be their lives, but it's not mine, and it's not the people around me. And it's a standard that I'm probably not going to reach because they probably don't even look like that themselves.
Right, it'd be hard to reach that given that fact.
Yeah.
Like culling your social media of the people that are making you feel bad. That definitely seems like a good idea. I think everybody can relate to that. But I suppose it's always still a risk because people still are posting their best stuff. Like you said, they're posting their highlights anyway. But I suppose if someone's like entire purpose is to show you how rich they are or what a model they are, then it's just like, okay, I can moderate the other stuff a little bit better in my mind, but I can't deal with your like 10 out of 10 bragging all the time. I think maybe that's kind of
Hmm.
whether they're totally trying to brag or they just, I don't know, they're just not meaning it. Most people don't have a bad intention. They're trying to do their best and get attention, whatever, the same as anyone else. But right, they can go about it in a way that can feel harmful. So
Yeah, and it's also I believe it's easier to appreciate, for example, somebody's beauty or attractiveness if you know them, and if you don't, you kind of put them on a pedestal.
mhm.
Like, I am so happy for my friend that has the smallest waist ever, but whenever Kylie Jenner posts it, I'm just like, oh, I wish that was me. Like,
Are you able to describe why you're happy for your friend about like having a small waist or whatever? Like, because I get it totally, but I'm curious if you can put words to it.
yeah, I think that if it's my friend, I feel like yes, girl, you look so good. Like,
Mhm.
and I love that she'll like feel good about herself and comment back, or like it's a positive interaction. It's never out of jealousy, and I don't really follow anyone that I don't like, that I
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
So it's it's genuine and it's positive, and we're just trying to uplift each other. And
Mhm.
whenever I post something, I'm sure that she'll comment back if she wants to.
Right.
And I know that she means it.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to have trouble with I guess just like feeling good about other people. Like it was so much easier for me to feel jealous if somebody had something I perceived as better than me. And this is when I was in like my mid 20s, and I've gone through like a huge transformation, but I wasn't the healthiest person in my mid 20s in terms of processing my emotions and things like that. I mostly just worked all the time. I was trying to be successful. And if somebody was more successful than me, because that was more my standard, I think, of what I, cared about and got jealous about, I just couldn't deal with it. I needed to like not look at it. But I found that when somebody is better than me in anything, could be like a sport or whatever, um, it makes me feel hopeful, and particularly if
Mm-hmm.
it's someone I know, because I'm like, that's cool. Like that person is adding something really neat to the world. Maybe I'll learn something, and I like the fact that if I'm friends with them, I'm associated with it, and I can benefit in some way and interact with it. So I know what you mean. It can be a nice feeling to see somebody like being good at something. But it takes a certain confidence in yourself and the ability to kind of love the other person in a certain way. And I think that's what you're
Mm-hmm.
describing.
And also, I feel like if you know somebody and you see them being successful, you already have the advantage that you know them. You can just ask them, like, how'd you do this? How'd you do that?
Hmm.
But if you're looking at somebody that has a million followers and is just posting about how successful they are, then of course you're going to be like, well, how?
Hmm.
Like, why can't I have that?
Hmm. Sometimes I wish people who are very successful would like have like a summary, like a 5-page essay or something like that, that is like really seriously how they got there. Because it's not usually just being amazing and born talented and brilliant. It's like, who helped
Mm-hmm.
you? Where did you get a lucky break? How freaking hard did you work? And how much did you sacrifice? Like, there's so much to the picture of whatever
Yes.
success means to you. Anybody that is at a high level of success. I just wish that everybody was frank about it, because it wouldn't be
Yes.
so glorified.
And please don't make us pay for the course of the success.
Right, exactly. Then the whole thing doesn't work because you're just getting successful off it, and I don't like that. I don't want to be used that way. Yeah. So as we're getting to like the final stretch of the conversation, the dialogue, I'm coming away like really feeling like there's some distinct not great things happening from your public profile, and a lot of there's a lot of genuine good things coming from your private profile with the 50 people you follow and follow you. There's community knowledge and knowledge of events, perhaps, even though that's more Facebook. There's genuine like moments of like being happy for your friends. There's probably funny interactions where you're like sending jokey things to each other or just appreciating someone's humor. So
Mhm.
it's kind of it's more of a positive and hopeful outlook on what social media can be in certain contexts, if
Mhm.
you can get rid of the part where it's like strangers that are interested for reasons that don't make you feel good, perhaps, even though you may use it to make yourself feel good in your public persona, or just like the voyeur part of it, where like they're sharing what you're doing with the world, and you have to then be accountable to some vague collective feeling.
Mhm.
Um, but there is a bright spot in there, in that one aspect you've described, which is kind of nice. There's been some kind of sweet, I'd say, descriptions of your private Instagram that you're talking about.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, I like that. I feel like I have a bit more of a complex view than I did,
I'm
because
glad.
well, because I think I came into the conversation like, we're going to talk about the impact of social media on mental health, and it seems like the punchline is like, well, it's bad for mental health, pretty much. And I think I still overall feel that way if I were to just like hit the
Yes.
topic briefly without much complexity. But yeah, I also do have moments where I'm just like, My friend is just so hilarious and silly, or I am so proud of that person for graduating or for getting a book published or whatever it is that, that I can relate to that part of it. So for me, I think I'm going to try to just continue to be conscious. And like, that's been a big thing in my whole life, is being conscious about everything. Like, if I have something that makes me nervous coming up, I have a speech I'm giving or something, because I do like marketing talks and stuff. Then I need to be like, oh, I'm nervous. Let me take a few minutes and meditate or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, and often I don't do that. I just kind of power through, and that's when my mental health suffers. So
Yes.
probably like social media, like other things, has a use. But if you're conscious about it and kind of understand its impact on you, and you do think about that and don't just let it passively hit you all the time, then I think you have a chance to use it for its positive, its benefits.